Good evening, everybody, and I appreciate the invitation this evening. I am Judy Pritchett, and I am running for State Board of Education. I will not, though, appear on the August primary because the Democratic Party nominates the State Board of Education candidates through their party process on August 25th and 26th. So if you're at the convention, watch for me because I need to get some signatures in order to be placed on the ticket in November. So, but I'm an ex-social studies teacher, and that has always been my first love, and so I'm going to give you a little lecture right now about how important it is to vote each and every time you have the opportunity, and especially this August. So please make sure you go and vote where you believe it's the most important this August also. A little bit about myself. If you pick up one of my cards, you'll see that I have over 25 years experience in education. I began as a teacher at St. Clement High School. St. Clement was located at 10 Mile in Van Dyke. It was behind, I don't know what the name of the church is right now, but it's the church that looks like the Pope's hat, is the best way to describe it. The school was the only K-12 school in Macomb County at that point. It was the late 1980s. It was a delightful place to work. I have fond memories there. We were very, very low in enrollment though. So after about 3 years, I moved on to the second largest school district in the state of Michigan, Utica Community Schools, where I had the privilege to teach social studies at Eisenhower High School, just up the road here, for 3 years, and then somebody talked me into becoming an administrator. And so I was an assistant principal at Stevenson High School down in Sterling Heights for 3 years, where I had a great time. And I still miss that job. I know a lot of people think, oh, why would you want to deal with all those high school kids in discipline? And I'm telling you, I had some great times working with students who were struggling, and together with their families, we were able to get them on the right track. And so that's a good feeling. I then took a little bit of a risk in my career. I could have stayed in Utica schools and been absolutely fine. It is a fabulous school district, but I decided that Mount Clemens Community Schools was calling me, and so I went over there as their high school principal and worked very closely with that Board of Education and superintendent for about 4 years, and then kind of made a circle in the county and ended up back in Centerline within blocks of St. Clement's School, and I worked as a central office administrator for Centerline Public Schools, and after a few years the superintendent there retired, and I decided, if not now, when, and if not who, then maybe me, and the board agreed, and so I was privileged to be superintendent in Centerline Public Schools for 6 years. At that point, and being a superintendent is an extremely difficult position, and it's become more and more so in the last several years, thanks to Lansing and some of the interesting laws that have been put into effect by the Republicans. But my first love was always curriculum, is still curriculum and instruction. And so an opening came at the Macomb Intermediate School District for Chief Academic Officer, and so I was awarded that position, and so I left Centerline, and that's where I spent the last 8 years of my career, just recently retiring. Well, not so recent, it was a year ago. Some people still see me at the ISD because I still do a few special projects here and there, but my main job is working with my two wonderful granddaughters. When I got ready to come tonight, I said, what do you think I should tell them? And they both said, well, tell them about us. So there, I checked that off my list. And they attend Romeo Community Schools. So I am very familiar with Macomb County. I will tell you, while I worked for the ISD, I also was able to be given lots of opportunities to work throughout the state with lots of wonderful educators. And one of my responsibilities was to to attend the state board meeting every month. And it wasn't by, you can watch the state board meeting, by the way, second Tuesday of every month on live stream, but we didn't think that was probably the best way for me to use my time, so I would drive up to Lansing and spend most of the day with the state board. So I feel as though I've got a pretty good sense of what their responsibilities are, and I know I can make an impact. I also have the privilege to be able to work with some individuals, not only at Michigan Department of Education, but some individuals around the state of Michigan. So I've got a pretty good sense of what's going on throughout the state as far as education goes. I'm passionate about public education. I believe it is the equalizer. It is the greatest equalizer we have. Unfortunately, in this state, it has been underfunded. Unfortunately, in this state, we have disrespected the teaching profession, and it is a profession, and that needs to stop. And the other thing that has happened, unfortunately, is those school districts in the state of Michigan, and quite frankly, they're all over the state, the major focus has always been Detroit public schools and in the southern part of Macomb County, those school districts that are struggling academically. There's many complex reasons for that to happen. It's not a simple reason why it's happening, and it's not a simple solution on how we can turn that around. Together we can, and I believe what I will bring to the state board is that common sense approach about this is what's happening in a school today. So as we begin to make policy decisions, as we talk about curriculum, as we talk about assessments that need to be given, how are we using those assessments? How many times have we changed those assessments over the last year, 2 years, 3 years? And how are those affecting every one of our schools in this state? We have some schools in this county and this state that are doing very well if you look at the test scores. But when you start to dig a little bit deeper, you have to start looking at some other issues also. What about the equity in those school districts? Are all children being serviced the same way? What about their zip codes, from where they're coming from? With school of choice, we have to look at that. Again, I believe very strongly in the fact that I've got that passion and that experience at this point to be able to continue to live the way I've lived the last 25 years of being involved in the education community. So with that, I'm going to stop talking for a minute because I could go on and answer any questions anybody might have. Yes, sir?
Yeah, Detroit Public Schools had 45, 50 students in a classroom. How would you address class size?
There is no question that Detroit Public Schools, and I will commend their new superintendent who has just finished his first year. I think he's on the right track. They still are, though I think they're starting to chip away at it, are having a terrible time trying to find teachers to come and teach in the district. And that's not just happening in DPS. That's happening throughout the state of Michigan. And that's because we can't get people going to the teaching profession anymore. And why would you in the state of Michigan? Because all they do is get blamed for everything that happens. Certainly class sizes of 45 are unacceptable. We need to work together, though, to be able to find the right individuals to go into classrooms and service our children, no matter where they are. Yes, sir?
Prop A limits the amount of money that we can give schools statewide. Is there anything that we can do to improve that amount of money? Because nationally, they get about $11,000 and we get into the $7,000 range.
You are absolutely right. You've done your homework. Prop A has been around since 1994, right, Mr. Miller? I think right in that area. It needs to be fixed. I know there's been some discussion. There was just an adequacy study published in the last 6 months. I would Yeah, suggest that if you haven't had a chance to read it, but it talks about that. What it talks about, though, is that how different districts, you know, we try to fund equally. Well, equality is great unless you're in a high poverty district where the children are coming to school every day hungry. That district may need some more funding per student than what another district may need at this point. And that's some of the problems with Prop A. So, I'm getting a book here. Wow, okay, Nancy.
When Amazon wanted to bring headquarters into Michigan, I mean, the Lansing must have felt the sting when they said that we do not have enough talent. That goes right to the heart of the education. And it's going to continue like this. Businesses will ignore Michigan opposed to another state that actually has better education.
There's no question that the educational community took note of that. I think there were some other reasons why Amazon didn't come to Michigan also.
Right.
It was an easy thing for some of the politicians and the governor to say, well, we didn't have the talent. I think we have to be careful about making generalizations about that. There is no question, though, that we've got the potential. You've all got children and grandchildren and your neighbors, and the potential is there. We just need to get our eyes focused on good instruction in classrooms with equity for all at this point.